here from the Changa Bush Club Bridge Camp. Changa Bridge Camp here in Luangwa, Zambia. Behind us is the Luangwa River. Over there.
You can see it's flowing.
Yeah, that's the flow. But the amazing thing is, on the other side of that river, you will find Mozambique. Believe it or not.
Hey!
Yeah, it's quite hot here, but we want to thank at this moment, while we have the opportunity, for Kaki Bos.
Yes. Kaki Bos.
For the great sponsorship.
Trek yourself on.
Trek yourself aan, maak gereed. Dis mos wat hulle sê.
Vat 'n kans.
Vat 'n kans. Van nou af.
Wag.
Maak 'n kans.
Van nou af.
Kaki Bos clothing, brilliant for traveling Africa. Good, durable clothing.
Double stitched. Whatever that means.
It just sounds good, huh? And then also to...
It's supposed to last longer.
It's supposed to last longer. And so also to quench your thirst, we want to say thank you to SodaStream.
Mine's kind of gone already, but
And here's the machine. You can make your own cold drinks while you are traveling Africa. You don't have to buy everything what the locals are selling you. SodaStream. So we want to say thank you to SodaStream as well for their great sponsorship and help to make sure that we stay filled with fluids.
refreshed. Oh, you have to do that as well.
Smaak my angel het op my tong gepiepie.
So
Yeah.
we are here to give Let's get back to the focus. This is a feedback session.
Yes.
We now officially have 8 minutes left. We are here for the last 3 days and have been thinking through and meditating on the experience we had in Lusaka with Pastor Felix and some of the younger leaders of the Lusaka region. It was very encouraging. A little bit surprised by the fact that we had few people. We only had like 6 leaders that came. And but it was still good. It was a good representation of what's happening in the region, what we heard. So yeah, today we just want to give you some feedback just about the team and what we've experienced. And as we said, for the last 3 days we've been here at Changa Bush Camp. Bridge
Those
Camp.
things you walk over and not
It's
glide
like-
in.
Yes. It's a perfect stopover between Lusaka and Lilongwe. Only about 2.5 hours, 3 hours drive from Lusaka towards Lilongwe. And if you can't stay over for a night, at least stop for a few minutes, have a meal, get a drink, and pop into the swimming pool for a few minutes, cool down, because this heat is scorching. So,
Yes.
some feedback on Lusaka.
Are you gonna ask? Yeah. Well, we kind of spent 2 or 3 days in Lusaka, at the Flintstones backpackers, and then it was an interesting stay. It was an experience.
It's for the hardcore Africa.
Yeah.
For a man that finds his pleasures in the basics.
And a steel stomach.
And a steel stomach.
So we stayed in Lusaka at Flintstones backpackers in Lusaka, and then we met with Pastor Felix and some of his leaders there in what's the church is called again? Pastor Felix Mumbe.
Pastor Felix Mumbe's church in Lusaka.
In Lusaka. And we should really get better with the names there. Yeah, so we met with Pastor Felix and some of his leaders. We had about 5 or 6 guys gathering together, and they started to share about what is happening within the local community, where younger leaders are actually almost rebelling from the local church and starting their own churches in the schools. So if you go to a school on a Sunday, every single classroom is taken, the hall is taken, and there's just churches that are running in there, run by young leaders between the ages of 20 and 35.
Some of them were even, as I said, the age of 15, running their own church.
They're running
15 years old, running their own church.
running their own churches. So it was quite an amazing little thing, and it's not something that is rare in that area. It's actually a common trend in the Lusaka region, and I've also noticed it in Malawi and in other regions as well. So that was quite an interesting.
I think a lot of the tension and the reason why some of the young people are heading out to start their own churches is because of the tension between the older and the younger leaders. The younger leaders believe that they have something to share. They need a platform. They want to be involved. They want to be active about the thing that they are passionate about. And very few opportunities are created by the older leaders that allows them to exercise that passion that they are experiencing. And so what we've seen, or actually what we've heard from within the Lusaka region, is now literally not 1 or 10 but hundreds of young people that are head out to schools and just start their own churches. As we mentioned, some of the young at the age of 15. Some of the schools are so overcrowded, they are now renting out tents so people can have church on the playgrounds.
No. And it's not because the leaders don't have the capability to give those platforms. They just feel threatened. Well, this is the pastor's words. They feel threatened by the younger people and the ability of them to draw more people to what they are doing. And they just say, well, we can't help you. You have to move on.
I remember in one of the reports we wrote that some of the leaders that do give space for the younger leaders, they do mentor, they do coach, but they want to coach them in an old mentality, in an old mindset, which the younger leaders are really battling with.
No.
And so they're looking for innovative ways. They're looking for ways to just live out what they're currently experiencing. And again, the same as in the Gwembe Valley, we've seen that people are heading out without proper Bible training, ministry training, etc. Yet these churches are growing. And that's the funny part, it's not a thing of someone heading out in rebellion and then 6 months down the line it all collapsed. These churches are growing. In fact, the one guy actually mentioned where he said the president or the previous president was threatening to close down the churches in the school because there were just too many. Obviously now with the new president in place, permission has been given for that to continue.
And the interesting thing is that the church's demography isn't just young people, it's people from all ages that's coming to these young people. And I think you said it in the meeting as well of it was John Maxwell that said people move if a person is moving, or what's that?
If you want to work, if you want to see something moving forward, you should not just work with someone who wants to make a difference, but you need to work with someone who's already doing something that makes a difference.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that's really making great work in Lusaka, but they just need the guidance. They don't have any mentors, and to keep them accountable. Even they said one of the biggest needs that they have is to be taught on doctrine, because these guys go out with a limited understanding of Bible and church planting, and they just make it work somehow. Yeah.
I think the key thing again is the same as what we experience in the Gwembe Valley, the same as we experience in Livingston, is that there's already a lot of great things happening. And whether you can see it as rebellion or whether you see it as the reformation of church in Africa, a word that we've been playing with among ourselves for the last few days, is this classroom movement a rebellion, or is it actually the way the church is being reformed in the 21st century, especially in an African context? I don't know. I think it's something we will maybe learn more from in the future as we continue our research. But I think something is already happening, and the last thing you can do is now to go and tell all those young leaders that, listen, you're wrong. Listen, you're all sinning. You need to close it down. You've got to get back to the basics or the roots. And I think then you will see rebellion taking place.
But that is actually that has been happening with them and some of their leaders. And some of them are forced to actually left their original churches because of these movements. They felt that this is what they need to be doing. Mm-hmm. So there is that constant tension where they're saying, well, the leader doesn't agree with the way, with this person's vision for his life, for God is calling. And
not the leaders on the roof.
Yeah. Sorry, I lost my train there. But so it. There's a lot of bush around here, but there is that thing where these guys are literally stepping out on their own, and they actually have to rebel because of their leadership wants to keep them either in the church serving under them and to their visions, rather than helping them, guiding them, and to reach what God has called them for their lives. And there's a point coming in a lot of these young people's lives where they have to decide, what do they do? Do they follow the leadership of the church, or do they follow what God has laid on their heart? And it's such an interesting question to figure that one out and say, okay, well, is this God speaking to me, or am I trying to do my own thing? And I think being placed in that situation, you kind of have to go what you feel God is doing every single time. And I think that's something that a lot of people won't necessarily understand around them as well.
And I know we're running over time here, but this is the last report on Zambia, and we would still like to give you an overall feel of Zambia, so forgive us for running a bit over time. But here's a very interesting question. The last few days I've been just reading Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, about wisdom.
Yeah.
And I'm only now at chapter 4. And in all 4 chapters, it speaks about listening to those who have walked the road before you.
Yeah.
How do we take that understanding to how the young people are currently acting in Lusaka, as an example, where they've listened to their leaders? I think, from what we've heard at least, they have spoken to their leaders, yet the leaders felt no. We keep doing the way we want. We've been knowing how to do it over the years because it worked in the past. Now, whether that is still applicable in where we live today, that's debatable. But where do you draw the line where you then say, okay, you know what, I hear what the book of Proverbs is teaching us about wisdom, that I need to listen and learn from those. And where do I draw the line in saying, well, it's time for me to move on?
Yeah. Well, it's quite interesting, because I've had a few questions amongst leaders like that over the past, where we've sat down and discussed and said, well, my younger guys are rebelling, we want to go and do this, and they're struggling with the youth, the older church leaders. But then you ask them the question, what did you do when you went to go plant your church?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them have actually gone against their leadership in the past in order to plant their church in the first place and to start their movement. So it's kind of a cycle that is starting to show with some of the more experienced leaders that I've been chatting to in the past, where these guys have actually gone and said, well, this is what God's called me to do. But it's kind of bringing those leaders back and helping them to understand the next generation through their own personal experience, and highlighting the stories that they had to go through, which they've almost forgotten about.
So is it then possible that sometimes what seems to look like rebellion in the beginning, later on you might realize that you acted based on something that you felt God was leading you into, although it manifested at that moment with all the bells and whistles of what rebellion could look like, but in fact it was actually a reformation process?
Well, you have to ask yourself the question, does it mean when I'm learning from somebody that went before me that I must do exactly the same as he did? Or should I take what's good from that and go and do what I think God is leading me to?
But what if your church leadership says, no, you can't go and do it. You've got to remain the son in the house.
There's been a few of those that have come through.
Well, I think as you can
Leave your comments below.
we don't have the answers. That's why we're here. That's why we're learning. That's why we're asking the questions. That's why we're meeting with these people. And all I can say is, in a nutshell, and I'll give everyone an opportunity to just close down of the overall feel of Zambia, is that from my side, I think God is doing amazing things among the young people. And there's certainly something that is being birthed over the last year, 2 years among the young people. I have not seen, and I've been traveling Africa for the last 18 years, and I have not seen young people taking the lead as they are currently doing in Zambia, as an example. It's an explosion of activities. It's an explosion of people just moving forward, moving into action, and actually just do what they feel the Lord is telling them to do. This morning I was working on the reports, and I just wrote there that this is a generation that has decided to say, you know, my personal testimony is the greatest weapon I have to share what I feel God is telling me. And yes, I am limited in my understanding and my personal experience of who God is, but what I know, I want to share. And so we start to witness this. Livingston, the Gwembe Valley, as well as in Lusaka, similar trends are taking place.
Zambia is one of not many countries that has said itself or said Zambia is a Christian nation. So you come in here with expectation, not knowing, you know, is it really a on fire Christian nation, or are they just saying it for the sake of it? And I think what we thought is really on grass level is people that really has a on fire relationship with God. I don't know how to put that otherwise. They take what they've been taught and they just run with it. And I think Zambia is certainly a blessing to itself and to other countries around it.
Yeah, I agree. Can't really add much as well, but I think it's the key of this all is why you believe, and we've said it throughout the stories where these guys are going out and they're sharing their testimony and they're sharing their understanding of God, and they are finding ways to connect with these people on the grassroots level, and you can see it's very similar to the house church movements that are happening globally as well. But now within the schools, it's just they're using the school together
Instead of house churches.
So it's this bringing a more personal, more intimate relationship with each other, but in the discovering of your relationship with God. And I think that is what is happening across Zambia, and I think we'll discover that is happening across most of Southern Africa as we travel. I know from past experience, a lot of the time I've seen similar stories in Malawi and Mozambique and in South Africa as well. Sorry for banging the table, but fire. Forgive me. But I think God is really doing something, and I think it's about time we actually take note. And we can learn a lot from this.
Let's just come alongside those who's doing it.
Definitely, yeah.
Work with those who are already doing something that makes a difference.
Yeah.
So guys, from our side, once again, thank you for listening in. Thank you for following us. Thank you for supporting us. And once again, Kaki Boss. Soda Stream. It's different flavors.
Changa Bridge Camp.
And Changa Bridge Camp for giving us the space to communicate with you today. And tomorrow we head off to Lilongwe in Malawi, and a whole new journey is starting to learn more about what God is doing among the young people in Malawi.
The Republic of Malawi.
Shop.
Shop. Merry
See
Christmas.
you later.